Hey guys, welcome to today's daily. I'm in a different room today if you haven't noticed. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about keeping your eyes on your own field. I say keep your eyes on your own race. Run your race, stay in your lane. So let's get started and then we'll talk about it. Have you ever been to the ballet? I had the privilege of seeing a great performance of Swan Lake many years ago, and oh, what a beautiful dance. The prima ballerina was so elegant and graceful, it was truly amazing and inspiring to watch. How did she dance like that? Wow, I was in awe. However, have you ever seen a ballerina's feet? See, we look at someone's dance and see how graceful and beautiful their dance is, but we don't see their broken, mangled, bloody toes. You don't see someone's toil. You just look at their fruit. You rarely see how they've plowed the hard dirt in the heat and sweat of the hot sun. You don't see when the enemy tore out and stole all their crops and they had to fight him off. You don't see the constant watering of tears and praying for the rain so their crop can grow. You don't see their sacrifice, those bloody toes. You just see their fruit and then wonder why you're not there yet. My friend, it takes toiling under the hot sun, often in bad conditions, in the drought and famine, with lots of prayers and tears for good fruit to come forth. It is years and years of faithful toiling and a commitment to never quit, no matter what circumstances may come. Do not envy someone else's field. You do not know what they've done for the harvest to come forth. Mind your own business and care for your own crops. Galatians 6:9 says, "And let us not lose heart and grow weary and faint in acting nobly and doing right. For in due time and at the appointed season we shall reap, if we do not loosen and relax our courage and faint." See, you will reap a harvest as well if you do not quit. In our house we say, faithful, 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 fruitful. Keep your eyes on your own field and get busy tending it. Stop looking longingly at another's field. You probably don't even have the tools and talents to do what they do. Envy only produces strife and division and will leave you bitter and resentful. God has a plot of land, the tools and talents for your field. Stay faithful to the work He has given you to do, and all will be well. So let's talk about this, and I remember that ballet. It was probably 30 years ago. It's been a long time. I am in awe of ballet dancers, how they're on their toes. And I understand, there's a piece of wood in their ballet slipper, but that's crazy. It's crazy. Ballet dancing is just crazy to me. My son is getting married pretty soon, and his fiance took, she was a ballet dancer for many, many years, and she said her toes are still kind of mangled, and she hasn't danced in a couple years. So it's a real thing, ballet dancers' toes. And what happens is, right, we look and we see the beautiful dance. We see the finished product of years of dancing, of years of practice, I don't even know how long it takes them to practice for one show. So let alone how long did it take them to practice for just one show, for one solo, for one, think about those type of things. And we look at that, and we're like, wow, must be nice. I wish I could dance like that. Well, first of all, not everybody can dance like that. You have to have a certain body type. You have to be a certain size. Typically, there's a reason that ballet dancers are, not 6'5" and 300 pounds, because it's hard on your body. So, they're usually light. They're usually small, thin. They have to be able to move well. So, you may not even have the right body type to be a ballet dancer. So you were not given the right talents. I was not given a great singing voice. I said, I'm a choir singer. I can hold a tune, but I'm not a solo singer by no means at all. I cannot do solos. And so I I don't try to be a worship leader. My voice is not cut out for it. I don't have the talent for that. I don't have the talent for that. I don't have the gifts for that. That is not my field at all. And for years I wanted to be able to sing well, and I prayed, Lord, give me that beautiful angel voice, give me my beautiful angel voice. And I stayed in the choir. I never got asked to sing a solo, but I didn't have the right talents for it. I didn't have the right voice for it. And that's okay. And this is what happens, is we will look at someone's years of work and years of practice and, years of toiling. And we like the finished product. And, we're all we are all a work in progress. We're all progressing. And so that sense of they're finished, you're not a finished work by any stretch of means, but you see a beautiful harvest that they accomplish, and you think, well, how come my field doesn't look like that? And let me just tell you, friend, I've been serving the Lord for 28 years. Your fruit is not going to look like my fruit. I've been toiling a long time. I've been working in my field a long time. I've dug up weeds. I've dug on hard ground. I was talking to somebody the other day about being a church planter, and often people don't understand, especially if you've never been a church planter, you don't understand being a church planter. Even pastors that take over other churches, they have no idea what it takes to be a church planter. 75 to 85% of church plants, they quit. Okay. So pastors that start out to plant a church, 75 to 80% of them quit. They don't come to fruition. Why? Because it's hard ground. So imagine if you were, the Lord said, you're a city girl. And the Lord said, well, I'm going to call you to be a farmer. You've never farmed a day in your life. You don't know anything about soil. You don't know anything about crops. You absolutely have nothing. Okay. So you go out, you spy a piece of land, you start digging in it, you start, toiling in it. And then all of a sudden you find out there's a bunch of rocks and weeds, and that ground is useless. And you're like, I can't even use this ground. So then you got to move to another piece of ground where maybe that ground is good then, right? Because the Lord's given you a huge plot of land, but you don't know where the best place is to grow food on that land. So imagine that. Then you have to pray for the rain. You got to plant the right seeds. You got to know how far to dig and how much to water and how much to do this, and that's church planting. Okay, so then on top of that, I'm struggling, just to be a Christian. I'm struggling against my flesh. I have to be a submissive wife and mother, and I have children to raise and grow and help them in their walk at the same time of planting this field. So then you look at me and where I'm at, so 28 years down the road, and you didn't see me in the beginning. You just see my dance now. You see this product, and you see a harvest, and you see things growing, and it's not overgrown because I've been diligent and I've been consistent and I've been faithful to do the work that God has given me to do. So you look at that and you say, well, how come I can't do that? Friend, you can do that. It's just going to take a while. It's the same thing we tell my son. He sells real estate, right? And so there was another young man that started real estate, and he doesn't really personally know this guy. He just kind of watched him from afar. And this young man started real estate probably at the same time my son did, at an early age. And this kid was just killing it. Well, what my son didn't realize is that this kid, his dad, was like this millionaire real estate developer that was giving him was feeding his son all of his contacts. And so this kid was just killing it. He started his own business. He was buying cars, all this sort of stuff. And I was like, son, he is getting the fruit from his dad. you've had to start your own field. We didn't have any fruit to give you in real estate. We had nothing to give you. You were starting from nothing. So he's looking at this kid's field, and his father gave him this field. Well, praise God for that kid, that his dad gave him a field. That's great. But we're looking at that, not knowing the backstory, thinking, well, how's he doing so good? And why is he killing it? And I'm working hard, and my contacts aren't coming through, all this sort of stuff that we would go through with my son. And that realization of he took over his father's field. Okay. So same thing, a lot of people, back in the early days of our church planting, somebody would, come in and take over another church, and they're just flourishing. Well, they took over somebody else's field, and they were able to grow that field more, but they started, with a couple hundred crops. So we have to be very, very careful when we're looking at somebody else's field. You don't know how much they've worked. You don't know what they've been given. You don't know what gifts and talents they have. You don't know how they've been faithful. You don't see their bloody hands and their bloody knees from praying and fasting and everything that they have done to be fruitful in that field. So we look at those things, and then we get, it just builds envy and bitterness and jealousy, and those things are never good. And one of the things that I learned a long time ago, if you can't be happy for somebody else, why would God ever bless you? And I want you to think about that. God does not bless envy. He does not bless jealousy. He doesn't bless those things. God will bless the work of your hands. Keep your eyes on your own field. And I'm a firm believer in that when you're content with where you're at and you can actually be happy for somebody else, man, then God will bless you. We are to laugh with those who laugh and cry with those who cry, and we should be happy when somebody else is blessed. I just don't believe that God is going to bless a bitter person that is just grumbling and complaining and was, why can't I have that? Why can't I do that? Well, you can have that and you can do that. It just takes hard work. And that was the Galatian scripture that Paul tells us. He says, do not lose heart and grow weary in faith and acting nobly and doing right, for in due season. And that's very, very important part. In due time and at the appointed season, we shall reap. He says, in due time and at the appointed season. There's an appointed season. There's an appointed season for you to reap a harvest. So you have to keep your eyes on your own work, that you're doing what God has called you to do. God has given you gifts and God has given you talents, and He expects you to use those. They're not the same thing that God has given me. What God has called me to do is not what He has called you to do. So you have to do the work that God has given you to do and be faithful to the work that God gives you to do. I'm running short on time, but I do want to say one more thing about this is oftentimes we'll look at somebody else and we're like, well, I wouldn't do it that way, or your work isn't my work, so it's not good work, and I can get caught up in that too, or if they're not doing it the way that I would, or they're not doing the same work that I'm doing, and so therefore it's not good because you're not doing something the way that I do something. And that's just not true. That's why all parts of the body work together. And so we can't look at somebody else's work and say, you're not doing a work for the Lord. How do you know they're not doing a work for the Lord? You don't know that. They're doing what God has called them to do. Just keep your eyes on your own work. Don't worry about what someone else is doing. If you do what God has called you to do, then you're going to be blessed. There's no points for criticizing somebody else's work. Just don't even do that. Just don't even go there, okay? Leave someone alone. They're going to answer the Lord. As long as it's not heresy, what do you care anyways? So just let them do what they're going to do. Keep your eyes on your field. Keep your eyes on your crops. Be faithful to do the work that God has called you to do, and you will reap in due time and at the appointed season. Okay? Hope you got something out of this today. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, whatever you need to do. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.